I think I have finalized my understanding of how gravity works. And this would also explain how astrology works. And because of that, how astrology might actually be a real science. Gravity is not some vortex that is sucking your feet down to the ground along with everything else. There is no such a thing as a pull in this universe. Everything moves because everything is being pushed. Push is real, pull is not real. We use the word pull to simply indicate to ourselves from which direction the entity exerting the pushing force is in relation to the thing that's being pushed. If we say the horse is pulling the cart, then it indicates that the horse is in front of the cart. And if it's pushing the cart, the horse must be behind the cart. But that's only directional reference. Physically, either way, it's all a push, not a pull. If you tie a rope to a wagon and pull the wagon, you're not pulling it, because the rope curves around the handle, and therefore the rope pushes on the handle of the cart. Train couplers are hooked in shape so that one coupler pushes on the other. When two magnets stick together, they don't attract. I think what happens is their magnetic fields curve around each other, so that one magnet is casting a pushing force on the opposite side of the magnet next to which it happens to be, and vice versa. Now, gravity is generated by every celestial body in the universe. And gravity moves outward from a celestial body, not inward. So any object of significant mass will emanate gravity. This means Earth is not trying to suck you to it. It wants to push you away from it. In fact, every celestial body wants to dissolve into dust, just push itself apart into dust. There is a pressure that keeps Earth in the shape of a sphere. And that pressure comes from the outside of the Earth, from around the Earth. Now, isn't that just absolutely fucking insane? See how insane this sounds? But that's because it's only half the picture. I said that Earth wants to push you away, but we're all standing on the Earth. You gotta be crazy to say that. Well, every celestial body sends out a gravitational force that goes on forever and ever through the universe. It just continues on and on across the light years. All these gravitational forces merge into one extremely immense force, a kind of pressure that would pancake you flat into the thickness of an atom if you were exposed to it in such a way that you are pressed up against something, and this force was only acting on you from one side. So gravity is actually not a weak force. It is an extremely powerful force. Well, now it gets even crazier because, as you can hear, I'm completely going against what men of science have told us, men with degrees in astrophysics and whatnot. And who the fuck am I? I have no official education beyond high school, so to speak. I don't even know most astronomical terms off the top of my head. And yet here I am saying that mainstream science's understanding of gravity is wrong. But anyway, so how do we stick to planet Earth, or any planet? Why do we fall? Why do planets orbit? Didn't I just say that the planets want to push everything on their surface away from them? They actually want to break up. They want to break up into dust. Well, Earth is just one tiny speck emitting gravity into space. It cannot overpower the gravitational pressure that pushes into it from all of the combined stars and planets that surround it in the universe. The gravity of all the celestial bodies in the universe combines into one immense pressure force that's pushing against the Earth from all sides, and this pressure is greater than Earth's gravity pushing outward. What we are experiencing right now as we sit here is the difference between these two pressures, and this difference is what we measure as weight. That's what defines weight. What we call weight is created by the difference between the gravity pushing down on us, which is a much stronger gravity, and the gravity of the planet, a weaker gravity, trying to push everything away from it. And Earth cannot push things away harder than the rest of the celestial bodies pushing down on it. And that's why we fall, we stick to the planet's surface, and we have weight. But it doesn't end there. It gets a little trickier, because gravity coming in from the rest of the universe doesn't just push down on Earth. It doesn't just push straight down in one direction. It doesn't just push straight down perpendicular to the Earth's surface at any given point. It's an omnidirectional force that is going in every direction at once, because the gravity emitting celestial bodies that surround Earth, they surround it from every possible direction, and so they're emitting gravitational pressure in every direction at the same time. So gravity doesn't just push down on you straight down. It hits Earth from every conceivable angle. It's also pressing on you from the sides, not just from above. Well, why don't we go falling sideways then? Well, because we're equally supported from the sides. And we're pressed down from the top, so it's like a dome of pressure around us. No different if you're immersed in water at the bottom of a swimming pool. The water is not just pressing down on you, it presses on you from the sides as well. It is only at the bottoms of your feet where this pressure is weaker, from the direction of the ground. This is because the planet is absorbing with its mass the gravity that comes in, that presses in on it from outer space, and therefore the planet beneath you is shading some of this gravitational pressure, so it only pushes you down from the top and from the sides. And of course the planet is also applying its own upward push against you, trying to push you away, but it can't, because the pressure of gravity from above and around you is much stronger. Now, gravity from the rest of the universe penetrates through the planet, and it penetrates down into it, and it penetrates probably for several miles, if not more. This is why in a cave you still stick to the ground. All the stone above you in a mine shaft, you can have half a mile of rock above you, or in a mine shaft or a cave, all of that is not enough to shade the gravity that comes in from the rest of the universe that plasters you to the surface of the planet. But it does shade some of it, which means you probably experience less gravity underground the deeper you go. Not enough to notice the difference physically, but it must be happening. Obviously, gravity penetrates very deep into the Earth, and it's only close to the center of the Earth that you might feel weightless, because by then it's absorbed too much. So with that established, let's go back to where I pointed out that gravity doesn't just press down, it also passes sideways across the Earth. And at every angle in the 180-degree arc that you can draw above yourself when you stand on the ground. This means gravity that comes in from the rest of space also grazes through the crust of the Earth sideways, where it penetrates at an angle through the crust and emerges back out again. Such an effect aids the Earth in its desire to push away the things that are on its surface. This explains why you weigh less on the Moon or on Mars than you do on Earth, and why the smaller the planet, the less you weigh. This is because a smaller planet like the Moon, the outer layer of it can be penetrated by the universe's gravity at steeper angles without it being absorbed by the celestial body. The resultant effect is that on the moon, there is more gravity to push you up to counteract the gravity that's pushing you down. That's why you weigh less. The smaller the planet, the less gravity it shades. So the less difference there is between the gravity from the rest of the universe pushing you down and the gravity emitted by the planet pushing you up. So the resultant effect is that on the moon there is more gravity to push you up to counteract the gravity that's pushing you down. The gravity from all the bodies in the universe can penetrate into a planet for several miles. This gravity radiates at all angles. This means that if a planet is small enough, or like an asteroid, this gravity can penetrate all the way through it. That's why you won't stick to an asteroid. But on a large body, the gravity can't penetrate all the way through it. And if it does, what comes out on the other side is much weaker than what came in. So on a larger body, the gravity from space can only penetrate at these shallow angles. So it's not as effective at counteracting the unimpeded gravity that comes in from the top. But on a smaller body, the gravity can penetrate at much steeper angles and therefore better counteract the press against the object on the surface of that body that this object receives from above. This is why you weigh less on a smaller planet than a larger planet. You ever hear saying that there is no gravity in space? Like, you're on a spaceship and you just float. Well, that saying is not true. You are floating in outer space because there is gravity. But see, in outer space there is no gigantic planet to shield you from that gravity on one side. So the gravity supports you and penetrates you equally from all sides. And so you float. And what it's doing is that it's actually trying to compress your body into a ball. This is why a planet could not exist alone in the universe and keep its shape without any other celestial bodies in the universe surrounding it. It would simply dissolve, since there would be no outside force, this gravitational pressure from other celestial bodies that compresses it into a ball. So all celestial bodies are actually helping compress each other into balls and therefore exist. They say the universe is expanding. It means everything is moving further apart in the universe. The further stars and planets get from each other, the less pressure they will impart on each other. And in this case, the size of the planet won't matter, because everything will gradually begin to weigh less and less on Earth. And there's a scientific evidence for it. People are growing taller now than they did 400 years ago. That's because less gravity is pressing down on us as the universe expands, and all these celestial bodies are moving further from Earth. You might be surprised that a few hundred years from now, if you could time travel there, maybe you'd find that you weigh, half as much while on Earth than you do now. And this gravitational theory means planets can never collide or fall into each other. The Earth can never fall into the Sun. The Moon can never fall into the Earth. You couldn't force the planets together. They would resist coming together, like two magnets resist each other with the same polarities. Earth and the Sun push against each other. Earth and the Moon push against each other. Not physically, but through gravity that they emit out. But Earth can't just float away from the Sun because gravity from the rest of the universe is pushing it toward the Sun. Based on its size and gravity and density, each planet is forced into its own sweet spot, its orbit, that it can only deviate from just a little bit, so the orbit becomes elliptical. The only way to push Earth closer to the Sun is to not push it at all. You would just have to make Earth smaller in size. Then it would emit less gravity, and therefore have less resistance against the Sun's gravity, and then the collective gravity from all the stars and planets around it would then push it closer to the sun. This is why you cannot have a hollow Earth. So how can astrology be a real science? The gravity that celestial bodies emit that presses down on us has unique frequencies. Each planet and each star emits a gravity that's at a unique frequency. That's pretty logical, just like any electromagnetic wave. In fact, gravity probably is just electromagnetism. And this force obviously penetrates objects, therefore it penetrates people. And these frequencies change based on the arrangement of the celestial bodies surrounding the Earth at any given time, especially the arrangement of celestial bodies right above your own head at any given time. These frequencies all mix to generate unique frequencies as planets align with each other and with the stars in certain patterns. When you look up at the stars, the moon, the planets, realize that they are pressing down on you. They are what's keeping you on the ground. In a way, this is a direct interaction between them and your physical body. They're not just some faraway objects that mean nothing because they are so far away and they're just pretty to gaze at. They might as well be right next to you. These gravitational frequencies affect the development of the brain in a growing fetus. This is how astrology determines your personality, or what they call your birth chart. Ancient people have somehow studied how these gravitational frequencies affect the brain, and they mapped it out. That's an extremely advanced thing to do. But I think there's one thing that humans got wrong in astrology. It's the assumption that your personality is determined by the alignment of stars at the very moment you come out of the vagina. That actually makes no sense, because it's not like the mother's body is insulating you from these gravitational forces, so only when you're born are you exposed to them and they imprint your mind. I think what's actually happening is the effect that it has on your growing brain is a combination of all these frequencies on the astrological chart that the growing brain passes through, that the fetus was exposed to across the entire 9-month period of gestation. These patterns overlap, but they're all unique nonetheless based on the time of conception. These gravitational frequencies imprint something on the development of neural pathways in your brain, which then manifests outwardly as a unique personality. Then, for the rest of your life, these planets, these celestial bodies will have specific resonant effects on your day-to-day mood and perceptions. Astrology is not a predictor of your future, but it can be used to determine what sort of mood you might find yourself in on any given day, and therefore maybe you can use your willpower to counteract that because of your awareness of the influence, and therefore even pick the best times to perform certain tasks. But, so much for free will when gravitational forces can fuck with your brain, and that's only a tiny smidgen of the things that fuck with your brain in this world without you even being aware. There's very little, if any, free will in this world. Too many invisible things influence us that we have been programmed to dismiss, not pay attention to. Too many lies and deceptions. We are not told that we are beings. What we are, our bodies, is a very balanced and very complex chemical reaction that can be thrown off kilter by about anything. too much of the wrong chemical in the system, or even we can even be thrown off kilter by the electromagnetic frequencies that envelop us and gravitational forces. Therefore, psychosis can easily be induced. And then piece of shit cops will ruin your life because it looks like you are at fault, but you might not even be at fault. And under this model of gravity, black holes should not exist. Black holes are a wedge world order fiction. It's just one more of their fake science thingies like nuclear explosions, dinosaurs, and virupe says. If you could build a spaceship where you could shade gravity on one side of the ship, then your ship would be propelled by gravity from the other side. And that's all that you would need for interstellar travel. Not some kind of chemical propulsion or other types of propulsion, but just some energy field that might shade gravity on one side. That kind of vehicle could also work just to fly on Earth. A type of flying saucer that shades gravity coming in from above it, which causes it to be launched off the Earth because the planet's own gravity would then push it away. And does something like that exist already and it's just hidden? Because a principle like that could explain how those UFOs can just change direction at extremely fast speed without even turning in an arc, and can stop on a dime and don't appear to have any thrusters or any burning ignition type propulsion. Another thing is a giant asteroid could never impact Earth. Its gravity would bounce it off of Earth's gravity. That's why there's news of constant near misses by asteroids. However, an asteroid can get close enough that it enters the Earth's atmosphere, actually enters it, compressing it and creating a fiery explosion, like with the Chicxulub impact. But the actual rock in that impact never hit the ground. It bounced back into space. The gravity of the planet and the rock repelled each other. You will not find that rock in the Earth. That body never went into the Earth. It's back in outer space somewhere. The reason the crater forms is due to the air being compressed between the asteroid and the Earth. So it pushes down, the air pushes down the ground and creates a bowl-like depression. Only tiny meteors that aren't large enough to generate gravity of their own fall to the ground. So you gotta remember that gravity is an outward force that emanates out and expands out from a celestial body. It is not something that spirals inward like a flushing toilet, like they have us believe now.